Before we dive in today, are you on LinkedIn? I'm a big fan of LinkedIn for Nonprofits. It's a suite of tools, free resources, and exclusive discounts curated just for you, nonprofits. According to their research, 85% of nonprofit professionals say LinkedIn helps them achieve their organizational goals. And that's not by chance. Need to find that perfect program director? Want to build relationships with corporate donors? Or are you looking to build an engaged community of supporters? LinkedIn for Nonprofits gives you proven tools to make it happen. Visit nonprofit.linkedin.com to unlock your exclusive nonprofit discounts and resources today. You can also visit the link in the show notes. This podcast is proudly brought to you by LinkedIn for Nonprofits. Now, let's get to today's episode. When we know too much, it can restrict us from saying yes. And sometimes in the nonprofit world, or really in any space, we get so focused on best practices and proven strategies. And don't get me wrong, those are super important. But we don't want to forget to leave room for wonder, for asking what if, for trying something that might not just work, but it might also change everything. I'm Dana Snyder, your host of the Missions to Movements podcast, and my path to philanthropy has been anything but traditional. This show is your weekly mastermind, designed to give you the ideas, insights, and support you need to push the boundaries of what's been done before in nonprofit marketing and fundraising. Whether you're looking to build a magnetic monthly giving program, elevate your personal brand, or create partnerships that amplify your impact, this space is for you. I'll bring you solo episodes and conversations with industry leaders, offering actionable strategies and fresh perspectives that will move you and your mission forward. Let's turn your mission into a movement. Hey friends, happy new year, happy 2025. Welcome back to the Missions to Movements podcast. We're here. If you've been listening lately, we did a little new intro at the end of December. What do you think? I'm still getting used to the new music, but absolutely love how it turned out. And you know what's wild is we are stepping into year 3 of this show. 2025 marks year 3. And just my little one at home, who's now 21 months old, we're in full-on toddler mode over here on the podcast, learning and growing and figuring out what's ahead, right? And so speaking of toddler and parenthood, you see all these amazing phases that your kid goes through. And I think it's kind of the same with this podcast, to be honest. And over time, I've really zoned in on what lights me up and what makes me excited to grab the microphone and speak with you all and do research on new guests. And so this year, we're focusing on 4 main areas. First up, we are going to dive into how to revolutionize fundraising. And I don't mean just throwing AI buzzwords around. I mean really exploring how we can blend storytelling with new tech in ways that make sense for all different nonprofits all over the world. So that's the first one. 2, we're going to go deep on monthly giving programs because you know I love recurring giving. And I love the fact of creating sustainable revenue that provides you with predictable funding for your programs. So we're going to go deep on monthly giving, and I have some very exciting guest experts that are going to line up who are crushing it in this space. They're going to share kind of behind the scenes with you. Number 3 is personal branding and thought leadership. This is so important. I think especially like moving into 2025, we are going to tackle this in a way that feels really authentic. I'm going to bring in some great leaders to talk about how they do this and would love to have conversations with you about thought leadership and personal branding on this show and how it can amplify the mission and create the movement that you're looking to do for your organization, how you can really step into that place of thought leadership at all different levels of your career. And then finally, we're going to explore creating unique partnerships. And sometimes the best opportunities and partnerships come from the most unexpected places. And so before really getting into today's episode, I have to share something that I am still truly pinching myself about. And that is that we have a new show partner, LinkedIn. Yay! I honestly love this partnership story because it feels like one of those full circle moments that reminds me of why I love what I do. 8 years ago, when I was just starting out in creating my own business, I would spend hours on LinkedIn. I mean, tell me if you've been there, like connecting with anyone and anybody who was in the nonprofit space that was looking for somebody to help them. I was definitely that person sending like coffee chat requests, like left and right. But here's the thing, those connections, they grew into real relationships. Some of those people have become guests on the show. Others have become mentors of mine. One, which I still can't believe, led me to speaking at a conference in Italy this upcoming year. And now, through relationships that originally I had through LinkedIn that happened, LinkedIn for Nonprofits is now our partner. And this just goes to show, and maybe I'll get into the deep dive of that partnership and that relationship in another episode, but it just goes to show that you never know where genuine connections might lead. And LinkedIn for Nonprofits has, if you're trying to figure out where to start, they have this incredible suite of resources and discounts specifically for nonprofit teams. And yes, I will drop all of those details in the show notes for you so that you can make sure to take advantage on day one of 2025. So today's topic, and I just kind of want us to like kick off the new year in this mindset and thinking about our word of the year and how we want to live out 2025. And I had a Christmas card that I sent out 2 years ago that was all about picking your word of the year. And I've decided for 2025 that year be wonder. And so Bob Groff actually came out with a new book right before the holidays called Catching Whimsy. And I'm listening to it on Spotify right now. And in his introduction message, he said something that really hit home. We can't catch what we don't chase. And it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. You know how sometimes you hear something and you're like, oh, that's good. Like, I want to remember that. And so it made me think about how sometimes we can get so caught up in all the different things that we're doing. Maybe for you, that's grant deadlines, donor meetings, board reports, that we forget to maybe sometimes look up and out and ask, what if? What if we tried something completely different? What if that wild idea we've been sitting on is actually what our community needs, what I need, what we need? And so I want to kind of share my personal journey with this and the concept of wonder and why I picked it. And for the longest time, I was the queen of, I can do it myself, right? Like part of it is a little bit of a control freak over here. Anyone else feel that way? I mean, I literally spent days trying to do my own accounting when I started my business because I was convinced I was saving money. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was just keeping me from focusing on the work that actually mattered, that I was actually good at. But here's what happens when we let ourselves wonder, when we open ourselves up to possibilities. This year, or last year, I decided to bring somebody onto my team, to have somebody in a bigger role and take over things for me. And yes, I can feel like daunting and scary. And I can't believe it took me like 7 years to do it. But it has been a game changer. We have decided to finally, I invested in like a HubSpot, like a CRM for us instead of it being kind of like sporadic. And it's again, incredible, like what we're able to do and track and see more data on. And it has taken time. And for me to realize to just being open about things. And I wrote a book. Like I had wonder and curiosity and this, which I'll lead to in a little bit. The keynote speaker for the Monthly Giving Summit is going to speak about this, but I still keep the beginner's luck kind of like naivete like with me, where I wrote a book. I didn't really know what that meant, but I probably would have tried to fully self-publish, but no, I decided to invest in a hybrid publishing team. I paid someone to help me with my book editing process and the cover design and the upload and all of those things because they're experts in that. I am not. But I had the wonder and the curiosity to do it. I launched the monthly giving summit last year, which is coming back February 26th and 27th, which I'm super excited about. You can go to the link in the show notes to register for free with that. But launching a massive virtual event was, again, like kind of leaning into beginners' naivete about something and being like, yeah, I can do that. Why not? And then you figure it out along the way. And so I think sometimes we're hesitant when we know too much, it can restrict us from saying yes. And sometimes in the nonprofit world, or really in any space, we get so focused on best practices and proven strategies. And don't get me wrong, those are super important, but we don't want to forget to leave room for wonder, for asking what if, for trying something that might not just work, but it might also change everything. Right? I see this with Kennedy, my daughter, all the time. Right? She might try and do something that I know won't work, but she's going to try it anyways. And sometimes she figures out something completely new that I never would have thought of. Who knew a 21-month-old could be such a good business coach? Kennedy, you're hired. So here's what I want to put out there for all of us in 2025. When was the last time you used LinkedIn? If you're thinking, oh, when I was job hunting, I totally get it. But as the new year begins, LinkedIn is the one platform I am all in on. Why? LinkedIn is so much more than a job platform, especially for nonprofits. I have seen firsthand how powerful it can be for growing your community and your impact. Did you know that 75% of surveyed nonprofit professionals use LinkedIn to market their organizations to potential supporters? That's huge. Head over to nonprofit.linkedin.com to discover all the ways LinkedIn can amplify your mission. Because whether you're looking to connect with donors, find amazing volunteers, or establish yourself as a thought leader in your space, LinkedIn for Nonprofits has your back. I love that they've created this incredible collection of free resources specifically for nonprofits like yours. And I wouldn't be telling you all of this if I hadn't experienced the impact myself. Click the link in the show notes or head to nonprofit.linkedin.com to start diving in. And trust me, you're about to have a LinkedIn tab open on your computer at all times. Now back to our conversation. What's that thing that you've been wanting to try in your organization? Maybe it's a new fundraising approach. Maybe it's diving into recurring giving first. Maybe it's a different way of telling your story. Maybe it's a partnership that seems a little bit out there. But here's the really important question. Who can help you get there? Because here's what I've learned. Wonder works best when we don't do it alone. And sometimes the best person or group who can help unlock your next big breakthrough is already in your network. They might even be listening to this podcast right now. And so as I look ahead to where Missions to Movements, this podcast, where Positive Equation is heading this year, I am just filled with possibility, with wonder. Writing a book and doing a virtual event and having it happen this year, speaking in Italy, having LinkedIn as things I never would have imagined. What would happen if I actually did wonder for the outrageous? We're trying to explore new ways to help nonprofits harness technology. And yes, but more than that, we're looking at how do we build these genuine connections in the world. And I just want to invite you to be part of this world of possibilities. And so before we wrap today, I want to hear from you. What's your word for 2025? Mine is wonder. And I am genuinely curious about yours. What word is going to guide your nonprofit journey this year, you personally? Please drop me a comment on LinkedIn. See what I did there? But seriously, Please tag me in your post, talk about it, share why you're picking that word, start your thought leadership journey right now. I promise I read every single comment and every single message, and I love seeing how different organizations are approaching their goals for this year. You know, as I sit here in my home office in Atlanta, Georgia, I also can't help but feel both the weight and the possibility of this moment. As we witness a transfer of power in the White House, I think it's more important than ever to remember what we stand for in this space that we've created together. The Missions to Movements podcast is and will always be committed to fostering a truly inclusive, accessible, and equitable environment. This is not just a tagline for us, it's a promise. This is a safe space to amplify the voices of people and organizations supporting marginalized and underrepresented communities, including people of color, LGBTQ plus individuals, women, people with disabilities, and anyone working towards a more just and equitable world. That's a non-negotiable, and it's at the heart of everything we do here. And remember that Bob Goff quote I mentioned earlier, we can't catch what we don't chase? Well, I think sometimes in the nonprofit world, we're just so busy catching what we need to chase, those grants, those year-end donations, those program goals, that we forget to chase what we dream about catching. And right now, one of the biggest dreams we need to chase together is a more equitable world for everyone. So this year, let's make space for both. Let's be practical and wonder-filled. Let's meet our metrics and dream beyond them. Let's build on what works and experiment with what might work even better. But most importantly, let's ensure that as we grow and innovate, we're creating positive change that truly serves everyone in our communities. And speaking of what works next week, you are in for a treat. I am sitting down with Courtney Johnson, the incredible founder of Culinary Care, who's going to share how they developed this completely unique corporate partnership event idea. It's a cook-off event that brought in over $300,000 in 2024. And trust me, you're going to want to take notes on this one. The way they approached this partnership is exactly what I mean when we talk about wondering, what if? Until then, keep wondering, keep growing, keep making the world better, one mission, one movement at a time. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Missions to Movements. If you enjoyed our conversation and found it helpful, I would love for you to take a moment to leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps us reach more change makers like you and continue bringing impactful stories and strategies to the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, so you'll never miss an episode. And until next time, keep turning your mission into a movement.